Hey, welcome to WACTS. This is episode 6. Oh, 6 is my favorite number. This week I'm going to talk a little bit about Gone Girl, the book, not the movie. I haven't seen the movie. I don't want to see it until I finish the book. I'm about a third of the way through the book right now. For movies, I'm going to talk about Listen Up, Philip, and Lucy. In the software section, I'm going to talk a little bit about work. Doesn't really fit there, but you'll see. And for podcasts, this week it's all about Harris Wittels. It's a terrible tragedy. I'm really reeling from it. So let's get right to it. Software. So I've got some interesting moonlighting gigs going on right now. One is a very simple thing for Cracked, just helping them find videos and images. Not a lot to talk about there yet, but it's going to be exciting. The other one is I am helping a couple people that I know. There's a lot of NDCs here, so I don't... But a couple of people I know who work in the film industry on design teams and are very analog and haven't done a lot with computers. They're working with a director currently making a live-action adaptation of a classic beloved children's movie, and the director essentially wants the entire movie done virtually, or in 3D, I guess, before they even start filming. Most of the movie is going to be CG, but there are a few very key live-action elements, probably the settings and at least one actor. And they've always made their design comments and had a dialogue by taking screenshots from things or going to rehearsals and making plots of how things should be laid out. And it's been very analog and it's worked for them, but this is new because they're being sent 3D things now, and it's a lot more difficult for them to just comment on things and say this is how this should be changed. Typically, you're probably familiar with storyboards and that kind of thing, so this is that, but also with all the in-between stuff in the storyboards, so it's much less sketchy and much more like, we need to know exactly what it's going to look like, and that can be tricky. So all I'm going to say for now, until this becomes more okay to talk about, is that I am helping to show them that using programs like 3D Studio Max and its amazing lighting software and that kind of thing, that it's possible to convey design intent now in a 3D system very quickly without having to worry about it too much. So hopefully that goes well. Wish me luck. It's a very cool, exciting project. I've already learned a lot about just, you know, inside baseball about how the film industry works. And I look forward to talking about it maybe toward the end of this year, maybe when it's more okay. But movies. I watched Lucy last night with my wife. I'm not sure how I felt about it yet. I'm pretty sure I didn't like it. I'll say that I think it took itself too seriously. I think it could have been a more fun movie if it was a little bit more ridiculous, if there were a couple more winks. You know, Morgan Freeman is an actor who has played God. He's played all these very professorial roles. He has the narrator role in a lot of movies. He's the guy you trust. And to have him as a important scientist in this movie spouting utter nonsense with no basis in reality. We don't use 10% of our brains. We use all of our brains. That's a totally outdated theory that was based on things that didn't make sense. We know that's not true. And so, you know, fine. Okay, I can take the movie wants to play with this premise and imagine superhuman stuff. I wasn't a huge fan of the movie Limitless, but I think the movie Limitless at least was more enjoyable because it kept things in our world. Like, it made sense, okay? So, you know, Bradley Cooper's character in that takes this drug, makes him super smart, and he's able to write a book really quick. We can relate to that. That's fine. You know, it's very much a writer writing about being a writer, which is always a tricky slope. This decided to go all out crazy, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Taken, Explosion Fest, and I just had a lot of trouble getting past a lot of the nonsense, like, for lack of a better term. Scarlett Johansson, who I usually love, I've even enjoyed her in things like Under the Skin, which are very strange. Under the Skin, by the way, how weird is it that in that movie there's a lot of pure black, and in Lucy there's a lot of pure white, at least toward the end. And all that stuff at the end, very 2001: Space Odyssey. I'm jumping all over the place. I think the ending, I appreciated the audacity of it all. Still didn't work for me, but I'm glad that they just kind of pushed it to that crazy extreme where she's, you know, basically becoming a being of pure light or whatever it was. I don't care about spoiling this. This isn't a movie where you're going to be like, oh, you ruined it. It's the best part. If you really want to watch Lucy unspoiled, skip this section. But what else do I want to say about it? Just that I just don't know if it's the dumbest smart movie I've ever seen or the smartest dumb movie I've ever seen. I think someone said that about Interstellar, but I think it applies much more to this. Like, it's trying so hard to be like, oh, look at how we're exploring all these things that have never been explored before, but it's done in a really dumb way. The characters' motivations don't make sense. The way that Scarlett Johansson's character has no problem killing civilians and stuff, but for some reason has plenty of opportunities to kill these guys who are trying to kill her and doesn't. Like, they survive for a while and manage to kill all these scientists and the other drug mules and that kind of stuff. Also, totally weird, totally inefficient way to transport drugs. If I Googled drug mules carrying drugs in their bodies, I just don't imagine that that happens a lot because it's incredibly risky and dangerous, and there's other ways to transport those things, I think. Anyway, that's enough about that. Lucy, I give it 2 stars because Audacity, that gets you somewhere with a confidence rating. Listen Up, Philip is a movie that I heard about from Jason Schwartzman being on a couple different podcasts. I think he was on the Nerdist and WTF with Mark Maron. Hey, I listened to those, and it's not in these episodes. I never mentioned it, but they're both good podcasts. Check that out. And Listen Up, Philip was interesting because you don't like the main character. I'll say that. Like, he is a jerk. And what's interesting about the movie is, based on where it is at the start and the characters he's starting to meet, this guy's an asshole. He's a young guy who has like a successful book, but he's a jerk to his girlfriends and pretty much to everyone around him. And he meets this guy who is an older writer, played by Jonathan Pryce, who is basically what he will become. It's like he's looking into the Ghost of Christmas future, and it's like, oh, that's what I'm going to become, this lonely, senile old man who's very successful but has no friends. And so you think at the beginning, like, okay, there's going to be a redemption arc here. Like, he's going to learn how his actions affect the people around him, and he's going to change his ways and become enlightened and reformed. And minor spoiler alert, he doesn't. Like, by the end of the movie, he's still an asshole, blaming all of his problems on other people. I'm really going to spoil it here, so sorry, be careful. He breaks up with his girlfriend breaks up with him, finally manages to, you know, sever all ties, and he takes that as not like, oh, I'm an asshole boyfriend, I need to change, but like, well, I shouldn't have made myself so vulnerable to her. I really should never, you know, let someone in like that again. And so basically the end of the movie implies that he just closes himself off and never lets himself form any real relationships with anyone again. His girlfriend, Ashley, played by the wonderful Elizabeth Moss, by the way, who I've really been enjoying recently in movies like The One I Love and, of course, Mad Men and Top of the Lake and that kind of stuff. Which is weird because when I first saw her in Mad Men, I was like, who is this mousy little actress that I have no interest in? It's funny how pure talent can change those initial perceptions. But her story is actually what I think counterbalances the movie so well, because if everything was focused on Philip and you're just watching this asshole guy be an asshole, often in hilarious ways, but through the entire movie, it would just be incredibly grating. But Elizabeth, or Ashley, sorry, is fantastic as you watch her deal with, you know, this boyfriend that's never around and always kind of being a jerk, and realizing that despite all this time and energy and love she's invested in him, like a gangrenous limb, she just needs to sever it and not let it reattach itself. So she's the one really with the journey, where you see her being like, okay, I do love this man, but he's a total jerk, and I need to totally break my ties with him. And you're rooting for her to do that, and she finally does, and it's great. And I think so many people, men and women, struggle with relationships that gambler's problem, where you've lost a lot of money, and you keep thinking that the next hand or the next chips, you're going to win it back. You know, a lot of times you don't. You just lose everything. And I think a lot of people who've invested a lot of time and energy into relationships struggle with that. So I just want to applaud Alex Perry Ross, that's his name, for making a movie that is totally unabashedly without compromise, about a guy that just is a certain way and has plenty of opportunities to change, and allows you to explore that contrast. I've never seen a movie quite like that before. I look forward to seeing whatever he does next. I give Listen Up, Philip 4 stars with a confidence of 4. Podcasts. Speaking of total uncompromised people acting the way they want to act, we lost a incredibly young, incredibly talented comedian this week by the name of Harris Wittels. I didn't know Harris personally. Speaking here just as a fan, I first found out about him pretty recently, like November of 2014 or something like that. He had a second interview with You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. And I just found the guy instantly incredible. Like, I had a couple friends who told me about him and the stuff he'd done on, like, Secret Girlfriend, which is a ridiculous show, and the Sarah Silverman Show, and he's done some stuff on Comedy Bang Bang. And the comedic voice of this guy was so singular. And like, right off the bat, I just want to say that it's reminding me, I'm having feelings very similar to when Robin Williams died, because you feel that loss so intensely of someone that's brought you so much joy just suddenly snuffed out. And in a weird other kind of way, it reminds me a lot of Mitch Hedberg, not just because of the way drugs are involved, but because there's a part of you that's like, wait a minute, this has to be a joke. Like, it's totally in their sense of humor to make this a joke. Mitch Hedberg died on April Fool's Day. No one believed it. He was supposed to perform at UVM, where my wife went to college, and everyone was like, well, he's still going to be here, right? Like, he's still going to show up. This was an April Fool's joke, and it was so hard to come to terms with that. And apparently the set that Harris Wittels had right before dying the evening before was about how he was clean and how he was really, making an effort at this. So, to die of drugs the next day, it's just brutal. And, this is a guy that I'm sure drugs for him were something that he struggled with, but on the surface, I mean, it really seemed like he just thought of them very, very recreationally. Like, that might have changed over time, but over this weekend, I've listened to WTF with Mark Maron, his time he talked to him a couple years ago, the first time Pete Holmes talked to him a couple years ago, the Sketchfest show he was a part of, Making It with Ricky Lindholm, another Nerdist show, all these incredible podcasts where he's so freaking funny and honest, and you just connect with this guy right away. Like, I think we all know a guy like that, where the stuff he says there's such a grain of truth to it, and it's so honest, and it forms this connective tissue between you. And it's so brutal to lose someone like that. It really does feel like losing a friend. This was a guy who, bought a house, was 30, had figured out what he wanted to do with his life, really on the rise. Aziz Ansari posted a really lovely tribute, and you find out about the projects that they had in the works, how he was really headed incredible places. And, Aziz talks about, just as I've always perceived over the past 3 months, I don't want to sound like an expert, that he was a guy that gave you jokes that you didn't know were going to be funny. Like, comedians especially understand the construction of a joke. They might read something and think, oh, that's going to get a laugh. Harris's stuff would just come out of nowhere, and it would be dumb or silly or totally weird, but it would make you laugh because you'd be like, what? And, I've been doing a big Parks and Recreation rewatch because the show is ending on Tuesday, and I'm going to talk more about that next week. But, ever since I figured out who Harris Wittels was and got a better understanding of his voice, rewatching this whole series, like, when the credits start rolling at the beginning, even just in the opening jokes, a lot of times I'm able to be like, oh God, that's such a friggin' weird, funny joke. I bet Harris Wittels wrote this episode, and lo and behold, a lot of times that was exactly the case. It's a really horrible thing when a light gets snuffed out too early like that. Like, I just think of the years of joy and laughter that all of us were deprived. Like, Robin Williams passed away, and it devastated me, truly. He was almost like a second father to me growing up on his movies and then eventually finding his comedy and that kind of stuff. But he gave us a lot. Robin Williams gave us an enormous amount of work, and Harris was still young. He was still, again, had produced some amazing things, but to just think about how much more there was, how much more we could have had from him, it's a shame, it's a tragedy. Fuck drugs. Fuck drugs. So, I encourage you to check out everything he has done, all the stuff I mentioned before, Comedy Bang Bang, all the stuff on Parks and Rec, his podcasts he's done, they're all really wonderful. And I'm going to miss this guy. I'm really going to miss him. So, farewell, Harris. Music? I don't know if it's right to call this a tribute to Harris Wittels, but this week I was helping out a guy named Owen that is responsible for doing most of the tablature for State Radio and Dispatch and Bradigan and Pete Francis, all those guys that come up with really cool music but aren't quite famous enough to have, billions of people writing tabs for them. It's pretty much one guy that does a lot of them. He has a website called Tabs in One Fell Swoop. When I really liked Our Lives, Our Time, the first single that came out off of the Horse Comanche from Chad Stokes, I did a little video showing how to play it and that kind of thing, and Owen was like, oh, that's really cool, I'm gonna make a tab of this and credit you, and I was like, oh, that's very sweet, and he's like, I'm really behind on this stuff, if you want to help out, that'd be great, and I was like, that's awesome, I learned so many of these songs from you, and it's nice bonding, meeting your heroes kind of thing, and so this week I decided to learn how to play New Haven, a great song on the album, and Call it a tribute to Harris. That's fine. Enjoy. So pretty simple to start. I'm sure I'll spice it up a little sometime later, but chords, really simple. What can I say? You said it all, the look you just gave. You flicker like the street lamps above us. You sat there explaining in your ear while it was raining how your feelings had faded away. I just kept looking at the shadows of the raindrops falling down on your face. We've never been perfect, but now here you were, ending it all instead. You always looked up when you were trying not to cry, and now you look straight ahead. 'Cause I want to be with you, I want to be with you, I want to be with you. Yeah, but I'm okay, I can't let you go, I can't let you go. And so I go back to New Haven where I know, well, I think I can save it. You say, if you come you won't find me, then I start to feel poison ivy. I wanna shed my skin, yeah, I wanna shed my skin. Oh, the life we could have had, oh, the life we were in. 'Cause I want to be with you, I want to be with you, I want to be with you. Yeah, but I'm okay, I can let you go, I can let you go. And then it keeps going and repeats a bunch of times, but just an F and a C and a G. It's pretty simple. Hope you enjoyed that. But bam! Books! So I'm back to reading Gone Girl. I'm really enjoying it. It reminds me a little bit of The Affair, a show on Showtime from last year that was documenting an affair, but from the perspective of both a boy and a girl, and you're seeing both of those perspectives in tandem. So each episode you see a story, half of it you see it from the guy's perspective, the other half you see it from the girl's perspective. Gone Girl is interesting because I'm maybe a third of the way through it, and so far everything we're seeing from the guy's perspective is very tight time frame, like all stuff happening when his wife goes missing. Day of, 1 day later, 2 days later, 3 days later. Whereas everything we're hearing from the girl's perspective is over a much wider time frame. We're covering their entire relationship, starting from when she first met him and gets all excited to all the stuff they did in New York, and then moving out to take care of his sick family or sick parents. And it's interesting having those perspectives, and I do wonder if we're going to be seeing later in the book a couple days or events that align a little bit more closely, because I think The Affair was actually shining its best when you could see the same events from the guy's perspective and the girl's perspective, and in a very believable, real way, you could see how the fallacy of memory would cause one person to remember it that way and the other person to remember it a different way. Anyway, the storyline itself, I am enjoying. I will say there have been some spots, some stretches that have felt a little bit dead to me. Some of Nick going off to investigate his treasure hunt wife stuff out in the mall with the homeless guys and all that. Like, I think we're all pretty confident that's not going to amount to anything. Interesting things so far. Spoilers if you haven't read the book or seen the movie. I know nothing about the movie. I've only read this much of the book so far. So I'll just give some predictions for fun. The most interesting thing so far, of course, is that we know his wife got a gun. Why is that? We know that Nick's having an affair. Surprise, surprise. I'm actually really... I did not see that coming. I should have seen that coming. And so just throw some predictions out there. I'm suspicious of Nick's twin sister. There seems to be a certain possessive energy between them where I could see... I mean, I don't want to believe that she could have anything to do with Amy's disappearance, but it could happen, so I'm just going to put her there on the suspect list. I don't think Nick had anything to do with getting rid of his wife. Just want to say that. Amy, I think you can start with the fact that she got a gun, so why would she get a gun? Did she feel like she's being stalked? Was it one of these amazing Amy followers? I don't know. I think my working theory right now is that she either got really scared of Nick, like something happened with Nick that made her fear for her life, and because we're seeing all those day of events from Nick's perspective right now, he's downplaying it all. Maybe he's actually become kind of dangerous toward her. I don't know. Or maybe Amy found out about the affair and actually got the gun because she feels it could have been a thing in the moment where she wanted to kill Nick or something. I don't know, or she just fears him. So right now, my working theory is, just to put it out there, maybe it's just because I just saw Better Call Saul. What if she kidnapped herself or like ran away because either she wanted to cause Nick pain or because she really thought that she was going to kill him and needed to like separate from him for a while. I don't imagine that's correct because it's a very weird way to handle a situation like that. And you'd think she'd at least tell her parents. Like, why would she cause so many people so much suffering if it's all just comes down to relationship strife? I mean, and if what Nick's doing, having an affair, obviously horribly wrong, but it's not the kind of, I think most people would be able to figure out what the normal reactions to that kind of situation was, and kidnapping herself would be kind of crazy. I hope it's not a total out of the blue thing. Like, I'd like to think that all the clues are there right now, even only a third of the way through the book, and when I figure out exactly what happened to her, it's going to be like, aha, oh, that makes so much sense. How did I not figure it out? Kind of like the affair thing, like all the clues are there. I hope it's not something totally out of the blue where there's another guy or something like that maybe she's been having an affair and he's crazy, or I don't know. I hope it's nothing like that. So we'll see. But for now, I'm really enjoying the book. I'm giving it 4 stars for now with a confidence of 3. In Liz's book corner for this week, she is rereading her favorite book series, so I'll just promote it for her. It is the Miles Vorkosigan series by Lois, McMaster, Bujold. And she loves these books so much. Everyone in her family does. I am yet to read one. I'm going to, I promise. But she describes Miles as like a Tyrion Lannister meets Luke Skywalker meets Hamlet kind of character. Just very complex. There's a lot going on, and whenever she's reading these books, she's constantly laughing. These are jokes she knows coming from a mile away, but the construction of these books she finds to be absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to read it. That's a recommendation for me. And for you, there's like 11 of these books. Read them in order. I think this covers a lot of Miles' life. So very cool character. Check it out. Liz gives it 5 stars with a confidence of 10. Whoa! Television. I just saw Better Call Saul episode 4, Hero. This episode I was a little bit more lukewarm toward than the previous ones. You know, episode 3 ended with this great reveal of the money and what's Saul going to do in this crisis moment, and it felt like that was going to be a narrative jet propulsion that was going to propel the narrative forward, and it didn't really happen in this episode. It was kind of a slow episode. I was ready to really start digging into things. I thought we were going to be getting a lot more crisis decisions from Saul. I thought we were going to be learning more about some of these side characters. I really want to know more about his brother. You know, I want him to be more than just a crazy person. I want that fleshed out. I want more with this girl that Saul's hanging out with who works at Harry Hamlin's firm. I want to know more about Harry Hamlin. It's difficult to root for Saul right now, being such a jerk to this guy when we don't know their history yet. I'm sure this will all play great on rewatch once, you know, the first season's over, but right now I'm having trouble still rooting for Saul and liking him, because even though he's conflicted about these kind of skeevy things he's doing, like the billboard thing and the little con at the beginning when he was slipping Jimmy with the Rolex and that whole thing, he's obviously conflicted because he still has a conscience at this point versus Breaking Bad, where that's just totally out the window and he's almost delightful in his total disregard for other people. I need something to pull me along that really makes me root for Saul and want him to succeed in all these things he's doing, and right now I'm just not there. So you know, this episode, Hero, I'm giving 3 stars with a confidence of 4. I liked it, but I do want to see things pick up the pace. You know, most of Breaking Bad for me is all 5 stars, so come on, Better Call Saul, let's get going, let's get going. Looking forward to the next episode. And I can't believe we actually got a Saul Goodman line out of this already. It seems a little bit early, but, you know, it was fine. I listened to a podcast called Better Cast Saul. It's a couple guys named Jim and Aaron who had a great Breaking Bad podcast called Breaking Good, and they actually were making some very silly predictions that, like, the name Saul Goodman would come from that line, Saul Goodman. So to have that arrive in the show, not just as something that Saul actually says, but have it be something that he says when he's much younger, when he's still slipping Jimmy, you know, it's fine. I was totally cool with it. Okay, that's it for this week. Next week I'm going to be talking Better Call Saul. I'm going to be talking about the series finale of Parks and Rec. I bet it's going to make me cry. I bet I'm going to cry. We're going to see on Tuesday. Also, I might be interviewing someone. We'll see about that. But for now, videos. Because we got a music thing going today, here's that Our Times, Our Lives video where I'm just saying, in a very rambly way, here's how to play that other great song. Sounds like this. That's not me, that's the actual song. And then here is a song of me playing. I got a bunch of weird songs that I haven't played or done since college stuff. Here's one I did with some, first time I was venturing into 3ds Max. There's some digital flies flying around me. I just want to say right away, not real flies. But cool little song. It's a little bit like New Haven. It's a little bit about, you know, not being able to let go of someone, so enjoy that. And I will see you next week. Well, I think I can save it. And you say, if you come, you won't find me, then I